Meaning of surface mount socket: the socket that will be mounted onto the board is not a through-hole socket. The board has a surface mount footprint where the socket gets mounted onto the board with 4 screws, nuts and bolts. Each socket has 2 to 4 mounting guide pins. The guide pins help to set the socket in the correct position on the board so the socket pins make good contact with the PVC. Changeable pins. All the spring probe pins used in Contact Solutions sockets are individually changeable for pin replacement. When replacing pins, make sure the socket is sitting with the back straight. The pins are placed into the socket from the back side and held in place with a back plate. Back plate. The back plate is designed and manufactured for the pins that are being used in that socket and held in place with 4 screws. To remove the back plate, remove the 4 screws and slowly lift the back plate upward to avoid the pins from falling out. Sometimes some of the pins will come out when the back plate is removed. Once the back plate is removed, you can remove all the pins from the socket. Changing socket pins. The pins should be replaced in the socket body one at a time, and in only one way, making sure the crown and the tip of the pin are both facing in the same direction. The direction of the pin should be noted before pin replacement. Inspect each socket under the microscope to make sure all pins are facing in the same direction before placing the back plate straight on top of the pins on the socket. The tips of the pins should come out of back plate holes. The 4 back plate screws should sit lower than the surface of back plate so the pins make good contact with the PCB. Be careful to avoid stripping the threads on the socket. Contact Solutions semi-custom sockets, made with pogo pins and surface mount socket. All pins are changeable individually. To change the socket pins, you need to remove 4 screws from the back plate. After removing screws, you gently move the push plate, and this way you have access to the pogo pins. You remove one at a time with a threaser, until you remove all pins you want. To place the pins back into the socket, pins will go only in one direction. You just have to make sure you put it into the right direction. Placing the back plate straight on top of the pins on the socket. The tips of the pins should come out of back plate holes. The back plate screws should sit lower than the surface of back plate so the pins make good contact with the PCB. Be careful to avoid striping the threads on the socket. Now, most of the pins are replaced. You have to put the pin cover back and make sure that there would be no garbage in between the pins. Put the back cover and place one by one all screws on cover,